My husband, 39-year-old, and I, 37-year-old, have been married for 7 years. We have a 5-year-old son. He also has a 9-year-old son from his previous marriage. My best friend, 36-year-old, confessed to me that she and my husband had an affair last year that ended around Christmas time in 2023. I had noticed some distance there on her part, but she always seemed to have what sounded like valid reasons. I definitely felt like something was different with her, but I never assumed it was anything like this. We still talked and saw each other during the entire time that they were doing whatever they were doing together, and since it all ended in December. She told me now because she has confessed to her husband, and she wanted me to hear it from her instead of him. She's filing for a legal separation from her husband, and in their long talk about their marriage and why this was happening, she confessed to the affair she had with my husband. During those conversations, I guess I made the mistake of telling her about the romantic things my husband still does for me, and about how good he is in bed, and that's the truth. I thought our relationship was great. I was, and frankly still am, in love with him. I never had any sense that he wasn't attracted to me, was interested in other people, was cheating. She said it started in October 2023, and it was just intimacy. I know she had been very dissatisfied with her own marriage and intimacy life with her husband, because she had talked to me about it several times. At one point, she was even considering divorcing her husband. She would always say she loved her husband and he was a good man, but their relationship lacked any sense of romance and he didn't satisfy her sexually. She said she found herself flirting with him at a children's Halloween party in October. She felt very attracted to him and admitted she was jealous of what I had, but never thought of pursuing him. Then, after the party, she decided to text my husband to ask for advice about her husband and their marriage. We're all friends and we get along, and normally I'd never feel weird about her texting my husband for a man's perspective on anything. However, in this case, I believe it was just her excuse to start texting him and talking about how dissatisfied she was. She said the texts progressively got more and more inappropriate until they were sexting each other. She showed me parts of their text conversation, but I didn't want to look at it. Eventually, they met up in the middle of the weekday to have intimacy. She said they probably met up and had intimacy 20 or so times. She claims they talked about it and both felt an extreme sense of guilt, so they mutually ended it around Christmas. My husband is a really good-looking guy. He's a people person. His job sort of puts him in the public light here where we live. He's known in our community. He's out and about a lot because of that. It's not strange for women to flirt with him, and I'd say he's a flirty person, but somebody who definitely knew where to draw the line. Our intimacy life is great. We make time to do things together, just the two of us. We definitely laugh way more than we argue. I just never thought he'd ever do this to me, and with my supposed best friend of all people. He's away on a trip with his oldest son right now. Just a short weekend trip. They get back tonight in a few hours. She says she told her husband and I, now because she knew he was away this weekend, and this might give me time to process. How considerate of her to think of me now. I feel like all of my insides have been ripped out. I feel completely empty inside, hollow. I haven't let on that I know anything. I've been busy most of the day when he's texted. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get home. I really don't know what I'm going to say when he gets home. I'm picking them up from the airport in about 4 hours. I feel like I can't move. My mind can't even process everything I've been told. I've thrown up twice over it already. I'm absolutely devastated and don't know how to go on. I'm contemplating not telling him that I know anything yet and try to figure out what I'm going to do first. The only problem is, I don't know if I can pretend like I don't know. I don't know how I'm not going to confront him or just completely lose my HHT when I see him. If you were me, what would your next move be? How would you handle things when your husband returned home? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I picked him up from the airport about an hour ago. He was in a great mood and acting completely normal. I told him I didn't feel good, and when we got home, I immediately went to bed so that I wouldn't really have to be around him. He came in and checked on me and asked if there was anything he could get me. I don't know how long I can get away with just pretending to not feel good to keep a distance. Normally, I'd be all lovey when he got home from being away, not hiding in our bedroom. He'll know something is up. When I'm sick, I normally want him to baby me and be near me. Comment 2. He cheated with your best friend and he hid it so well you didn't notice, although you were picking up something from her. Given that, do you truly believe this is the first time he cheated? It seems from what you said, this isn't his first marriage. Why did the other ones break up? And did you only hear his side? Can you ever trust a man who lies so well and so easily? Who would frick your best friend? He is not a good man, and he is most likely a serial cheater. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. The day my husband returned from his trip, I decided to play it cool. I picked them up from the airport, plastered a smile on my face, and acted like nothing was wrong. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I watched him, looking for any sign of guilt or discomfort, but he was just his usual self, laughing and joking with his son. It made my blood boil. A few days later, things took a turn. My husband's phone buzzed while he was in the shower, and I saw a message from her pop up. "We need to talk," it read. I felt sick to my stomach. I confronted him as soon as he got out, waving his phone in his face. He didn't deny it, said it was a mistake, that it meant nothing, and he loved me. I wanted to believe him, but how could I? The next day, I heard from her husband. He was a mess. Said he couldn't stay in the house they shared. It was too painful. He asked if he could crash on our couch for a few nights. Against my better judgment, I said yes. I thought maybe he and I could find some common ground in our shared misery. Having him in the house was a mistake. My husband was furious, said it was inappropriate, and it led to the biggest fight we've ever had. In the heat of the moment, I blurted out everything I knew. The affair, the texts, her confession. Our son heard us yelling and came out of his room, scared and crying. It was a mess. The next week was a blur of arguments and awkward silences. Her husband moved out, and my husband begged for forgiveness. I was torn. Part of me wanted to work things out for our son's sake. But could I ever trust him again? Then, the surprise dropped. She was pregnant. The timing meant it could be my husband's. When I confronted him, he swore it wasn't possible, that they were always careful. But the doubt was there, eating away at me. I made a choice. I told him we needed to separate, at least for now. I needed space to think, to breathe. He moved out, and it's just been me and my son for the past week. It's been hard, but I thought it was the right thing to do. But then, yesterday, I found out she had a miscarriage. It was a cruel twist of fate. I felt a confusing mix of relief and sorrow, and now I'm questioning everything. Did I push my husband away too quickly? Should I have tried to work things out, now that the pregnancy wasn't an issue? I've been talking to a lawyer about what to do next. It's all so overwhelming. I still love him, but every time I think about what he did, it's like a punch to the gut. I don't know if I can ever get past it. Thanks for reading. My husband confesses his love for a younger woman. But when I catch them together, I report the affair and watch as their careers crumble. Edit. I've decided to talk to him. I know I've been avoiding this for months, but after reading all the responses, I feel it's time I rip that Band-Aid off. I'm going over to our house. I'll update on what happens. My husband and I, both 35 right now, met in college. We fell in love and got married 8 years ago. I gave birth to our daughter in 2020. My husband is a professor at this medical school. He's a doctor himself. My friend Sarah also works in the same college, and she's in the same department as my husband. A few months back in December, Sarah took me out for lunch and told me that she suspected something's going on between my husband and this medical student, a 25-year-old woman. She claimed she'd seen both of them give yearning looks to each other. She said that she's known my husband for so long, and she'd never seen him talk to any other woman like this, that he'd been so aloof around women all these years, but it's just different with this one girl. In that moment, I had laughed in her face. I remember telling her that she's jumping to conclusions based on these supposed yearning looks. "That's why I didn't tell you before," she had said. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. I remember the exact words because they stung. Internally, I was breaking down. Externally, I just smiled and told her that she's probably overthinking. That night, I casually mentioned this to my husband. I was laughing at the absurdity, and I expected him to join in and deny the wild possibility that he's in love with a student. But he didn't. Instead, he looked at me, all teary-eyed, and said, "I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I've tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner, but I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to." I asked him if he'd cheated on me. He said no. He said he didn't even talk to her, nor did they have any contact outside of college, and that he completely understood how morally depraved it is to try and pursue a relationship with a student. She wrote him a letter about a year ago, confessing her love for him, and he had told her that even though he was into her, nothing would come out of it. Apparently, that was when the yearning looks had started. I honestly don't remember how I reacted then. I think I just started packing and came to live with my parents, along with my daughter. I've been living with my parents since then. Half of me wanted him to come and beg for forgiveness, but he never did. He comes by sometimes to spend time with our daughter, but that's it. He never talks about the elephant in the room, nor do I bring it up. I keep checking that girl's social media. She's insanely beautiful, almost doll-like and intelligent. I can't help but think that someone like him should be with someone like her. He's always been very good-looking, and I'm more of a plain Jane. She's the Meredith to his Derek. I don't know what to do. What do I even tell people? I don't even know who I am without him. Some part of me still wants him to come back. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I remember that a psychologist friend of mine, at some point, told me that it's normal to have crushes on someone else, even if you are married. The important thing is whether you act on it or not. If you don't, they will fade in time. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it seems your husband had chosen you and your marriage until you moved out. Perhaps it's worth exploring couples therapy. Most people think having a child will strengthen their relationship, when most times it'll put a strain on it, and especially the first years, it's easy to grow apart. And I would guess that makes it easier to fall for someone else. But sometimes you can work through that and rekindle. Comment 2. Let's say he comes back and asks for forgiveness and does all that you want. Then what? Will you accept him and start something new with him, knowing that he did this? Think about your time and your happiness. What prevents you from finding the right person? Don't let the fear of the unknown ruin your future of being with someone perfect for you. And try to maintain a respectful relationship for the sake of your daughter. You deserve better than this. Let the past go and move on to see where it takes you. Holding on to this feeling will only make you bitter and close many doors. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear this. So I finally did it. I went over to our house to talk to him. I needed answers, and I was tired of being the one left in the dark. But when I got there, I found out he wasn't alone. The medical student, the one with the yearning looks, was there. They weren't doing anything, just talking. But it felt like a punch in the gut. I didn't even confront them. I just left, feeling like a fool forever thinking he might want to fix things. A week later, my world turned upside down again. My mom, who's always been my rock, had a stroke. It was bad. I had to juggle taking care of her, my daughter, and dealing with my crumbling marriage. My husband did come to the hospital, but it was more out of obligation than anything. He was distant, and it was clear his mind was elsewhere. In the midst of all this, Sarah, my friend from work, admitted she had known about the affair for months. She had seen them together outside of work, but didn't want to be the one to break my heart. I was livid. I felt betrayed by everyone around me. I had been walked all over and I was done with it. I decided to take action. I went to the college board with evidence of the affair, which is against the school's policy. It was a move that would change everything. My husband was suspended pending an investigation, and the student was at risk of being expelled. I didn't feel good about it, but I couldn't stand by and watch them ruin what was left of my dignity. Then, as if things couldn't get more complicated, I found out I was pregnant. It must have happened right before everything fell apart. I was torn. I didn't know if I could handle another child on my own, especially with everything else going on. But when I told my husband, something shifted. He broke down, apologizing for everything, saying this was a wake-up call. We're trying to work through it now. He's cut off all contact with the student and is attending counseling. I'm not sure if I can ever fully trust him again, but for the sake of our family, I'm willing to try. It's not easy, and I still feel resentment, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading. My wife demands I hide my body because she's insecure. So I push her to get therapy and we work on our marriage together. We got married 2 years ago and dated 3 years before that. I do not have some super buff body or anything, but I do go to the gym relatively often and watch what I eat. My wife has always been a bit chubby, but she is still very beautiful. And that isn't just my view, she was known in our friend group before we dated as a very beautiful woman. Regardless, she has an incredible amount of insecurity over my body. She wants me to cover up in public, basically. She constantly presumes people are looking at me sexually. She sort of chastised me about wearing a sleeveless shirt to go play basketball, saying that other women will be looking at my arms. She took me to the side at brunch and told me to button my shirt up because my chest hair was showing. I lifted my shirt to wipe sweat off my face during a picnic. And later she was like, "Did you have to show off your abs like that? People were probably looking." She has a weird fixation over whether my pants, shorts show my bulge or not. They do not. But she seems to worry they do, so she literally requested to her sister for a pic of us at her pool to be taken down because I was shirtless in it. That was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I have talked to her about this, but usually just give in. This time I genuinely confronted her about it. At first she was just saying that it was a jealousy thing. And I think it is to an extent. We had a discussion about it and she agreed that she would stop being so controlling. But then she broke down and said that she can't stand the idea of other women looking at me, saying that she constantly is terrified I will leave her. That her worst nightmare is some beautiful supermodel girl coming up to me at the gym and flirting while she isn't there. She said that she can't imagine still picking her after a beautiful woman flirts with me. She also commented on the fact that I had only had intimacy with one woman before her, and that she doesn't get why I have no interest in having intimacy with the countless women who would want to have intimacy with me. She can't comprehend it. She said that she has tried keeping this from me, but she can't anymore. And so she went back on what she said before and asked that I just please respect her wishes for me to be modest just for her sake. I said, okay, I will, but I think I only said that because she was hysterically crying. Needless to say, throughout this conversation, I told her many times that what she said was not true, that she was beautiful, that I would never leave her, etc. All of that is true. I wasn't just saying it to comfort her. I told her specifically that she is pretty widely known in our social circle as a very beautiful woman. It's not just me telling her that. It was in one ear out the other. I was just flabbergasted. For one, I had no clue she viewed me this way, as some type of guy who could apparently sleep with supermodels anytime I please and apparently is constantly approached by them. Again, not true. I also had no idea she has this incredible fear that I am going to leave her if this happens. I would never do that. I thought she knew that. I just don't even know what to say now. I can only reassure her so many times. It feels like nothing I say breaks through to her in terms of me telling her I would never leave her. What do I do? It's the morning after. She comes home in 2 hours. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This will become a self-fulfilling prophecy for her, like others have said. And it wouldn't even be because you met someone else. It would be because it's too much and it hurts the relationship. It's also borderline possessive, if not already. I would get so sick of listening to her. It just gets so exhausting. Comment 2. That looks like a self-fulfilling prophecy if I've ever seen one. She is so scared of you leaving her that she is doing things that would actively make anyone consider leaving the relationship. If by chance this got to a point that made you leave, she would then think, I knew it all along. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around after my last post. So, things have been pretty tense since then. The morning after that whole breakdown, my wife came home and we had another talk. She apologized for her behavior and promised to work on her insecurities. I thought we were on the right track, but man, was I wrong. Just a few days later, I caught her snooping through my phone while I was in the shower. She was looking for any signs of cheating, which of course, there were none. I was so mad I didn't even know what to say. We had a huge fight about trust and privacy. She cried, I yelled, and it was just a mess. She said she was just scared of losing me, but I told her this wasn't the way to keep me. Then, at my buddy's birthday party, she got all weird again. I was just chatting with some friends and she pulled me aside, accusing me of flirting with this girl from work who was there. I wasn't, but try telling her that. It was embarrassing and my friends noticed. They started asking if everything was okay at home. I brushed it off, but it was clear we had issues. A week later, she did something that really shocked me. She showed up at my gym unannounced. She sat there watching me work out, making sure no one was hitting on me. It was so out of line. People were staring and I felt like I was being babysat. I confronted her right there, in front of everyone. I told her this had to stop, that she was suffocating me. She just broke down right there on the gym floor, crying about how she couldn't help it. I was at my wit's end. I love her, but this was too much. I started thinking maybe we needed a break, some time apart to figure things out. But then her sister called me. She told me something I never knew about my wife's past. Turns out, my wife's mom had cheated on her dad when she was a teenager. It messed her up, made her really insecure about relationships. Her sister said she's always been like this, even before me. I felt bad for her, but it also made me angry that she never told me. We've been together for 5 years and she never once mentioned it. It felt like she didn't trust me with her past, but it also explained a lot about her behavior. So I had to make a decision. I could walk away from all this drama, or I could stick it out and help her through her issues. It was a tough call. I thought about all the good times we had, how much we loved each other, but I also thought about how suffocated I felt, how this wasn't the life I wanted. Then, something happened that I didn't expect. My wife came to me out of the blue and said she'd booked an appointment with a therapist. She wanted to get help for us. She said she realized she was pushing me away and that she didn't want to lose me over her own fears. It was a big step for her, admitting she needed help. I was surprised and honestly a little relieved. It showed me she was serious about changing. So I decided to stick with her, to support her through therapy. It wasn't going to be easy, but I felt like it was the right thing to do. We were in this together, for better or worse. It's been a couple of weeks since then, and things are slowly getting better. She's been going to therapy, and we've been talking more openly about our feelings. It's not perfect, but it's a start. I'm hopeful that we can get past this and come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for reading about what's been going on. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.